Today, I'm going to talk about Champions, first edition Champions, the superhero role-playing game. Got this back in the 80s. Came in a box set of the standard size that they were back then. And it came with 6 dice, of which I still have 5. I used to have them in my common dice bag with my other dice, but I've lost one over the years. Let's look at what all else is in here. So, this comes with a book, and this art style looks very much like comics looked back when they were good. And the strength chart, you'll see, goes all the way up to 100. Now, somebody with 100 strength does 20d6 damage with their punch. So this is a game that allows you to create original superheroes. They didn't have the rights to Marvel or DC or even Gold Key. It's all original heroes, but the pictures I got, they look like familiar faces. They look like somebody you've seen before. And there are a good number of different powers. There's some papers I left in here. And there's different modifiers you can use that make it's sort of like point buy. If you take some modifiers, you can make a power cheaper. The process of creating characters there's not much rolling involved. It's point buy. You buy points and you assign them. And so these modifiers, like always on or endurance battery, now if your power is always on, then it's more expensive. There are disadvantages that can make it cheaper, like a dependent NPC, somebody who frequently you have to go rescue, like Lois Lane, or hunted. Yeah, if you're hunted, that could give you an advantage. Or public identity or secret identity, either one of those offers advantages in PowerPoints. Unusual looks. If you look like Nightcrawler, then you can't blend in society. And then it goes into the combat system. And I wanted to show this. The combat round is divided into 12 segments. And most characters have a speed of 3 or 4. So that means they get 3 or 4 attacks. And you can see where they occur there. At one point I played a speedster who had a speed of 10. So he got 10 attacks per round. So it's a pretty simple, easy to play system when it comes to actual play. But character creation is really complex. You have to be a rules lawyer, one of those people who digs into the rules and likes to get into the nitty-gritty in order to create a really awesome character. And so I've DM'd this and I played it. Here's some NPCs that you can use here to give you an example. Now I've DM'd and I played it. When I played it, I was playing with people who were much better at the game with me, and they would help me create my character because it was just too complex. The kind of characters I could create were lame compared to what they could create because I knew the game inside out. And so you've got a lot of the stuff you need right here in the back of the book. Nice and handy. So it comes with character sheets. I'm going to zoom in on that if I can. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of attributes, and you start with a number of points. And taking disadvantages can give you more points. Taking advantages can give you less points, and you assign them here. And then these things are a bunch of calculated things based on what the number of points you had. So this helps you, sort of like a DM screen for the player to help them figure out how to play this game. And here you can list your disadvantages and the total points that you get for that, and your powers and the total point costs of them. The powers and the attributes come out of the same pool of points to spend, and so, the dice rolling is just for the actual play. And so this sheet is identical except the picture is different. And here's another one. And another one. And another one. See, nice drawings so you can put a costume on your character to make it look the way you want. Very handy. Alright, so I'm going to show you somebody else's player from a time I DM'd this. Now here's all the points he spent. And the disadvantages he took were unluck, public identity, unusual looks. So he's got horns. And hunted by Viper. Viper is like Hydra, a terrorist organization. The name of the character is the Mighty Powerball. And so his powers were, he had a multi-power thing with energy blast, flight, and force field all in the same pool there, and telekinesis was part of that too there. And so here's the drawing he did of him and the different stats. And so you can see his speed here is, where is it? Let's see. Okay. Oh, there it is. His speed is 2. You get 2 attacks per round. Now, this is the character I was talking about earlier, the Speed Demon, and he has a speed of 10. His powers are flight, which allows him to do maneuvers called move by and move through. He has increased the damage that he does with that. He has a secret identity, overconfidence, and hunted by a Viper. I didn't even draw a character sheet because I was helped to create this character by the people who knew what they were doing. And this week's game was a contest of champions where a bunch of superheroes would fight each other. And because of my speed, I got to attack first. And I charged at one of the players who I didn't know what he could do. And he was a martial artist who knocked me down, knocked me out on the next segment, and I was unconscious for the whole rest of the session. Now, I had driven 2 hours to come to that session. And so for the rest of the night, I was sitting there with nothing to do for the whole session. I would call this one of the don'ts of being a DM. Don't do that. Okay. So, it also comes with a little module called the Viper's Nest with some maps, some villain tactics. There's a little mini module where you fight Viper, the terrorist organization. One of the things is they like to take hostages and threaten them. Now here's some of the NPCs. Brick became a trope in this game that they referred to characters like the Thing as bricks. Now, bricks, martial artists, energy channelers. It came also with a map, which is not come stained. One side was just a blank hex map, and the other side is just a typical city street. I have no idea what that stain is, but it has no smell, whatever it is. Okay, here's a catalog of other things you could get from Hero Games in 1983. So, first of all, there's Champions, which is what I got this out of. They also have another game called Espionage. Champions 2, which when I played with that group who knew all the ins and outs, they had that too, and it allowed them to create a character that was a gadgeteer who had no powers except that he could make weapons that do specialized things. There's a supplement called Enemies 1 and Enemies 2. Actually, those are two different supplements. There's a group of supervillains. There's a GM screen. There were 4 different modules: the Island of Dr. Destroyer, Border Crossing, Escape from Stronghold, and Deathstroke. There was another game called, is that Privateer? Can't read that. And then they had some coming attractions. What was coming then? Justice Inc., Horror in the Sky, The Great Supervillain Contest, Instant Enemies, The Complete Privateer, The Justice Machine Game, Super Maps, and Adventurers Club. And there's even some rumors here on the back here about what's coming, and there's an order form. So that is Champions. Get it all back in here so I can show you the bottom side of the box. This is first edition Champions, which has been and there's the back. This game has been expanded into an entire system, so you can, called the Hero System, in which you can create any kind of character for any genre of role-playing game you want. And it's all based on point buy. It's really complicated to create a character, but if it's anything like the original Champions, it's probably pretty easy to play once you've got a character.